Alright, in this video I want to talk about artifacts and basically just my artifact ramblings, just to show you guys what a level 120's arts would look like. I am a user of Rate of Fire. I've been using it now for almost a year. Most of my builds are around Rate of Fire, with the exception of using my Explorer. Now let's get started here. So in my previous video of artifacts, I have slot number 7 here. It is blank. This is so that I can experiment and just test out something so I don't ruin another setup. My basic stats with just the medic with no arts on is 13,000 or 14,000 health, 1,600, 1,700 armor, 34,000 shield, and 600 shield regen. I'm rounding these numbers so that I'm not reading exactly what they are. Again, that's with no arts applied. And if we come up to our damage here on sticky bombs, I'm looking at 261 kinetic and energy after 3 seconds. I'm only getting 15.9 rounds per second. And then the other weapons really don't matter, except for maybe the prismatic. This is a nice DPS weapon, something that I can use. That's not stickies, that can take care of the smaller stuff that stickies would be pointless to use on, like dread moths or smaller items that really stickies would not be effective on. They are, don't get me wrong, stickies are effective, it's just not efficient, I should say. You would use your stickies for big things like cleaner and bionic queens and Judy's, all that kind of stuff. Prismatic crystals for fighters and all the small crap like beetles and mature dire moths and just the small stuff in the game I use the prismatic crystals on, and then the stickies I use for the big stuff. Anyways, so let's go back into my arts here, and I go with this setup the majority of the time. If you see me and I'm using my stickies, this is my setup. I have 2 Rate of Fire arts. The first one is 67.5, the second one is 66.7. Then I have 2 all damage arts. This one is 263.8 and this one is 290.1. Then I have an all resist of 75%. And this is my basic, pretty much run-of-the-mill, everyday usage when I'm using stickies. And what does that do to my sticky bombs? Well, my rounds per second is at 29.2. It's not the highest, but it's pretty darn high. And my debuffs are at 1,920 each. This deals a ton of damage in comparison to having no arts applied. And then if you look at our prismatic crystals, the all 3 of the top damage per hit is at 773, and the damage per second is 303,000. And then you have the debuffs at the bottom. That was my basic sort of build. Now, there are other builds I have for my medic that I can use. Like if I wanted to go and possibly lure Adjudicator, I'm going to need a lot of health for that. And so I've applied 1 Rate of Fire, so I just have something to sort of defend myself with. I've got a whole bunch of shield applied. More shield, but this time I have a 90% conversion. And what that does is that it takes all the shield I have and it converts it, 90% of those shields, into 150% HP. And then of course my 75% all resist, and then a whole bunch of armor. So what does that do to my ship stats? Now I am running at 168,000 health, 9,500 armor, 12,000 shield, and 999 shield regen. Basically just makes me a tank. And my weapons won't really be all that great, but I'm not really worried about that when I'm a tank. My whole goal as a tank is just to lure and stay alive. I'm not there to kill. Another setup I have in my medic is my domination or PvP or deathmatch setup. It's a variant between a tank and my normal setup. And again, I have my 2 rate of fire arts. Then I have an all damage, 251.3 all damage with 78.2% shield. Then I have my 62% all resist and a 76.8% shield. Now in PvP, domination, all that, resist is capped at 50%, but I do not have a better hybrid art for all resist at this moment, and this seems to work for me pretty good. Then I have my 95.2% shield with the conversion of 90%. And on my side stats here, you can see I load up on the shield so that I can convert it all into HP. And so my stats in PvP be 177k health, 1700 armor, 11,000 shield, and then 970 shield regen. So this is a PvP setup to where I can still kill players and have defense, because if I didn't have the defense, I would pretty much die all the time. I die pretty quickly now as it is, but at least I have some sort of defense and I can run away if I'm getting hurt, and that's that build. I have one last build that I use in my medic, and that is my paper setup. I use this to kill blobs and large things when we're in a team group that I know that I might have a chance of dying on, but it's a low chance because there's so many targets that the enemy has to shoot at. I use both my rate of fires, my best ones, and then I just slam on a whole bunch of damage. I don't use any resist. So my total damage is at 805.2, and I went ahead and I applied this third art here that had 78% shield. That shield really doesn't do anything because I don't have any resist, but what does that do to my damage? It just skyrockets that damage. My kinetic and energy damage is now at 2,673, and my prismatic crystal is now over 1,000 on its direct hit damage. It is now up to 401,000 DPS.